My husband became alpha and divorced me after I opened our marriage and got an STD. Mark and Tina's relationship began in the vibrant atmosphere of college, where they first crossed paths during a shared sociology class. Their connection was immediate, sparked by a mutual love for learning and a shared sense of humor. Late-night study sessions soon turned into long conversations over coffee, and before they knew it, they were inseparable. They bonded over their dreams and aspirations, often discussing their future together, which included a family and fulfilling careers. As they navigated the challenges of college life, their relationship blossomed, marked by laughter, support, and a deepening emotional connection. After graduating, Mark and Tina took the next step in their relationship and got married in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by family and friends. Their wedding day was a celebration of love and commitment, filled with joy and hope for the future. They envisioned a life together that would be rich with experiences, and they were eager to build a home filled with love. Shortly after their wedding, they welcomed their first child, a son named Ethan. Becoming parents brought them even closer, as they navigated the joys and challenges of raising a child together. Mark often recalls the sleepless nights and the overwhelming love he felt when he first held Ethan in his arms. The couple embraced their new roles with enthusiasm, finding joy in the little moments of parenthood, from Ethan's first steps to his first words. As they settled into family life, Mark and Tina also focused on their professional aspirations. Mark pursued a career in marketing, while Tina found her passion in teaching. They supported each other's ambitions, celebrating promotions and achievements, and often discussing their work over dinner. Their home was filled with laughter and the sounds of Ethan playing, creating a warm and nurturing environment. Friends and family often remarked on how well they complemented each other, with Mark's easygoing nature balancing Tina's more structured approach to life. They seemed to have built a solid foundation, one that many would envy, characterized by mutual respect and shared goals. In the early years of their marriage, Mark and Tina enjoyed a sense of stability that many couples strive for. They took family vacations, created traditions, and built a life that felt fulfilling. Weekend outings to the park, family game nights, and holiday celebrations became cherished rituals that strengthened their bond. Mark often reflects on these moments with nostalgia, recalling how they would laugh together as they navigated the ups and downs of parenting. Their home was a sanctuary, filled with love and laughter, where they could escape the pressures of the outside world. However, as time went on, the demands of work and family life began to take their toll. The initial happiness and stability that defined their marriage started to feel strained. Mark found himself working longer hours to provide for the family, while Tina juggled her teaching responsibilities with the challenges of motherhood. The couple began to drift apart, caught up in the whirlwind of daily responsibilities and the pressures of adult life. Despite their love for each other, the emotional connection that once flourished began to wane, leading to misunderstandings and unspoken frustrations. Mark often reminisces about the early days of their relationship, longing for the simplicity and joy that characterized their love. He recalls how they would spend hours talking about their dreams and aspirations, feeling invincible in their love for one another. The shift in their dynamic was subtle at first, but over time, it became increasingly apparent that they were no longer the same couple who had once shared everything. The laughter that once filled their home began to fade, replaced by silence and unaddressed issues. Despite these challenges, Mark and Tina continued to navigate their lives together, holding on to the hope that they could rekindle the spark that had initially brought them together. They attended family events, celebrated milestones, and tried to maintain a sense of normalcy for Ethan's sake. However, the underlying tension was palpable, and both Mark and Tina felt the weight of their unspoken struggles. As they reflect on their journey, it becomes clear that the history of their relationship is a tapestry woven with love, joy, and ultimately, the complexities of life. Mark's memories of their early days serve as a reminder of the happiness they once shared and the challenges they faced together. Their story is one of love that evolved over time, marked by both beautiful moments and painful realizations. It is a testament to the reality that relationships require constant nurturing and communication, and that even the strongest bonds can be tested by the trials of life. The events surrounding Tina's friend's wedding in Las Vegas marked a pivotal moment in Mark and Tina's relationship, one that would ultimately lead to a series of revelations and heart-wrenching decisions. The wedding was nothing short of extravagant, set against the backdrop of the dazzling Las Vegas Strip. Tina's friend, a successful event planner, spared no expense in creating a celebration that was both opulent and unforgettable. From the stunning floral arrangements to the lavish reception held in a luxurious hotel ballroom, every detail was meticulously crafted to ensure a magical experience for the guests. The couple exchanged vows under a breathtaking arch adorned with twinkling lights and cascading flowers, while the sounds of a live band filled the air, inviting everyone to dance the night away. Unfortunately, Mark was unable to attend the wedding due to work commitments that he could not postpone. He had been caught up in a major project at his marketing firm, one that required his full attention and presence. As he watched Tina prepare for the trip, excitement radiating from her, he felt a pang of regret for not being able to share in the joy of the occasion. He encouraged her to go and enjoy herself, assuring her that he would be there in spirit. However, deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling of missing out on something significant, not just for Tina but for their relationship as well. While Tina was in Las Vegas, she immersed herself in the festivities, celebrating with friends and relishing the carefree atmosphere. The wedding was a whirlwind of laughter, dancing, and reconnecting with old friends, and Tina found herself swept up in the excitement. However, upon her return home, a noticeable shift began to take place. Mark sensed a change in Tina's demeanor. She seemed distant and preoccupied, as if the joy of the wedding had somehow created a rift between them. The conversations that once flowed easily became stilted, filled with awkward pauses and unspoken words. Mark tried to engage her, asking about the wedding and her time in Las Vegas, but Tina's responses were brief and lacking the enthusiasm he had hoped for. As days turned into weeks, the emotional distance between them grew. Mark felt a sense of confusion and frustration, unable to pinpoint the cause of Tina's change in behavior. He wondered if the wedding had stirred up feelings of dissatisfaction within her, perhaps making her question their own relationship. The laughter that once filled their home was replaced by an uncomfortable silence, and Mark found himself grappling with feelings of isolation. He longed for the connection they once shared, but every attempt to bridge the gap seemed to fall flat. It was during this tumultuous time that Mark stumbled upon a hospital bill that would raise even more suspicions. While sorting through the mail one evening, he noticed an envelope addressed to Tina from a local hospital. Curiosity piqued, he opened it to find a bill for a significant amount, detailing a visit that Tina had made without his knowledge. Confusion washed over him as he tried to piece together the timeline of events. He had no recollection of Tina mentioning a hospital visit, and the bill raised a multitude of questions in his mind. Why hadn't she told him about it? What had happened that required medical attention? As he confronted Tina about the bill, he was met with defensiveness and vague explanations. She claimed it was just a routine checkup, but Mark couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. The discovery of the hospital bill only deepened his suspicions and fueled his growing sense of unease. He began to wonder if there were other secrets lurking beneath the surface, hidden behind the facade of their once happy marriage. The combination of Tina's distant behavior and the hospital bill created a perfect storm of doubt and insecurity for Mark. He felt as though he was losing the woman he had once known so intimately, and the trust that had been the foundation of their relationship began to erode. The emotional turmoil was palpable, and Mark found himself caught in a whirlwind of confusion, anger, and heartbreak. In the weeks that followed, Mark's mind raced with possibilities, each more painful than the last. He couldn't help but replay the moments leading up to Tina's trip to Las Vegas, questioning whether the wedding had been a catalyst for something deeper. The lavish celebration, once a source of joy for Tina, now felt like a turning point in their relationship, one that had irrevocably altered the course of their lives. As Mark grappled with his feelings, he realized that the events surrounding the wedding were not just about a celebration of love. They had become a harbinger of the challenges that lay ahead, testing the very fabric of their marriage. After discovering the hospital bill for an STD test, Mark found himself engulfed in a whirlwind of emotions that left him feeling both vulnerable and conflicted. The implications of the bill were staggering, and he was thrust into a storm of doubt and fear. He felt a deep sense of betrayal wash over him, But he also grappled with the reality that he had no concrete evidence to confront Tina with. The thought of accusing her without proof gnawed at him, creating an internal conflict that was both painful and paralyzing. Mark was torn between the desire to seek the truth and the fear of shattering the fragile remnants of their relationship. In the days that followed, Mark found himself spiraling into a cycle of obsessive thoughts. He replayed every moment of their interactions, searching for clues that might validate his suspicions. He recalled the distance that had grown between them since Tina returned from Las Vegas, and the way her laughter had faded into silence. Each memory felt like a dagger, piercing through the trust he had once held so dearly. The internal struggle was relentless. He wanted to believe in Tina, to trust her, but the weight of the evidence loomed large, casting a shadow over their marriage. Desperate for clarity, Mark turned to the internet, researching similar situations in an attempt to find solace or understanding. He read countless articles and forums filled with stories of betrayal, heartbreak, and the complexities of infidelity. Each narrative resonated with him, amplifying his emotional turmoil. He found himself identifying with the pain of others who had faced similar betrayals, and yet, he also felt a sense of isolation. While he could empathize with their experiences, he was acutely aware that his situation was uniquely his own. The more he read, the more he felt trapped in a cycle of despair, questioning whether he could ever truly trust Tina again. The emotional toll of this research was profound. Mark oscillated between anger and sadness, feeling as though he was losing a part of himself in the process. He longed for the days when their relationship was filled with laughter and love, but now, every thought was clouded by suspicion and fear. He found himself imagining worst-case scenarios, envisioning a future where their family was torn apart by betrayal. The thought of losing Tina, of losing the life they had built together, was unbearable. Yet, he also recognized that he could not continue living in this state of uncertainty. The internal conflict was exhausting, and he knew he had to confront the situation head-on, even if it meant risking everything. As he wrestled with his emotions, Mark began to reflect on the importance of trust and communication in relationships. He realized that their marriage had been built on a foundation of openness and honesty, and that the erosion of trust could lead to devastating consequences. He thought about the countless conversations they had shared, the promises they had made to each other, and the love that had once felt unshakable. It became clear to him that without trust, their relationship would be reduced to mere shadows of what it once was. Mark understood that confronting Tina without evidence would be a delicate matter. He didn't want to accuse her of something that could potentially be a misunderstanding or a miscommunication. The fear of being wrong loomed large, and he worried that his suspicions could lead to irreparable damage. Yet, he also recognized that silence would only breed more resentment and uncertainty. He felt trapped in a paradox. The need to know the truth clashed with the desire to protect their relationship. Ultimately, Mark decided that he needed to approach the situation with care. He began to formulate a plan for how to have the conversation with Tina, one that would allow him to express his feelings without placing blame. He wanted to create a safe space for both of them to share their thoughts and emotions openly. Mark understood that this conversation could be a turning point for their marriage, and he wanted to ensure that it was approached with the respect and love that had once defined their relationship. As he prepared for the conversation, Mark felt a mix of anxiety and determination. He knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but he also recognized that it was necessary for their healing. He hoped that by addressing the issues head-on, they could begin to rebuild the trust that had been shaken. The importance of communication became increasingly clear to him. It was the only way to navigate the complexities of their relationship and to find a path forward. In the end, Mark understood that love was not just about the good times. It was also about facing the difficult moments together. He was ready to confront the truth, no matter how painful it might be, because he believed that their relationship was worth fighting for. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he was determined to seek clarity and understanding, hoping that through honest communication, they could find a way back to each other. The day of the confrontation arrived, and Mark felt a mix of dread and determination as he prepared to speak with Tina about the STD test bill. He had spent countless hours rehearsing what he would say, trying to find the right words to express his feelings without escalating the situation. As he sat at the kitchen table, he could hear the sounds of Tina moving around the house, her laughter echoing from the living room as she played with their son, Ethan. The juxtaposition of their normal family life against the storm brewing inside him made his heart ache. He knew that this conversation could change everything. When Tina finally joined him at the table, Mark took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. He began by expressing his love for her, emphasizing how important their relationship was to him. But as he broached the subject of the hospital bill, he could see the color drain from her face. Her initial shock was palpable, and for a moment, the room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging heavily in the air. Tina's eyes widened, and her mouth opened slightly as if she were searching for the right response, but no words came. "Why didn't you tell me about the test?" Mark asked, his voice trembling slightly. "I found the bill, and it doesn't make sense. I need to understand what happened." Tina's emotional response was immediate. Tears welled in her eyes, and she looked away, unable to meet his gaze. "Mark, I didn't want you to worry," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "It was just a routine checkup. I thought it was nothing." But Mark could see the hesitation in her eyes, the way she fidgeted with her hands, and he knew there was more to the story. "Tina, please," he urged, his heart racing. "I need you to be honest with me. This isn't just about the bill, it's about trust. I can't move forward without knowing the truth." With a heavy sigh, Tina finally relented, her shoulders slumping as she prepared to share what had happened. "It was at the bachelorette party," she confessed, her voice trembling. "Things got out of hand. I had too much to drink, and I kissed someone. It was a stupid mistake, and I didn't think it meant anything at the time." Mark felt as though the ground had been pulled out from beneath him. The betrayal hit him like a physical blow, and he struggled to process her words. "A kiss?" he echoed, his voice thick with disbelief. "Tina, this isn't just a small mistake. You crossed a line, and now I'm left here wondering if I can trust you." Tina's face crumpled as she realized the weight of her actions. I know. I'm so sorry, Mark. It was a moment of weakness, and I regret it every day. I never meant to hurt you." Her voice broke as she spoke, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I love you, and I don't want to lose you over something so foolish." But Mark's feelings of betrayal were overwhelming. He felt a mix of anger and sadness, the realization that the woman he loved had made a choice that jeopardized their relationship. "You don't understand how this feels," he said, his voice rising. "I've been sitting here, questioning everything about our life together, wondering if I was the one who was blind to what was happening. You went to a party, and instead of being faithful, you chose to kiss someone else. How can I trust you again?" Tina reached out for his hand, but he pulled away, unable to bear the thought of her touch at that moment. "I need time to process this," he said, his voice strained. "I can't just pretend everything is okay. You've shattered my trust, and I don't know how to put it back together." The emotional impact of the confrontation was profound. Mark felt as though he was standing on the precipice of a cliff, staring into the abyss of uncertainty. The love they had built over the years now felt fragile, as if it could crumble at any moment. He thought about their son, Ethan, and the family they had created together. The thought of their lives being torn apart was unbearable, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that things would never be the same again. Tina, for her part, was devastated by the realization of what her actions had cost them. She had never intended for a moment of weakness to lead to such a catastrophic fallout. As she watched Mark's expression shift from hurt to anger, she felt a deep sense of regret wash over her. She knew she had to fight for their relationship, but she also understood that rebuilding trust would take time and effort. "I'll do whatever it takes to make this right," she pleaded, her voice filled with desperation. "I love you, Mark. I don't want to lose you. Please, let's work through this together." But as Mark looked into her eyes, he felt a mixture of hope and despair. He wanted to believe her, to trust her again, but the road ahead felt daunting. The confrontation had laid bare the cracks in their relationship, and he knew that healing would require more than just words. It would take time, patience, and a willingness to confront the painful truths that had emerged. As they sat in silence, the weight of their reality hung heavy in the air, marking the beginning of a long and uncertain journey toward rebuilding what had been broken. As the days turned into weeks following the confrontation with Tina, Mark found himself engulfed in a tumult of emotions that left him feeling both lost and resolute. The initial shock of her confession about the kiss at the bachelorette party had given way to a deeper reflection on their relationship and what it meant for his future. He spent countless nights lying awake, wrestling with his thoughts, replaying their conversations, and grappling with the reality of their situation. The love he once felt for Tina was now overshadowed by feelings of betrayal and disappointment, and he began to question whether their marriage could ever return to the way it once was. Mark's thought process was a complex web of conflicting emotions. On one hand, he longed for the connection they had shared, the laughter and intimacy that had defined their early years together. On the other hand, the sting of infidelity was a wound that refused to heal. He found himself reflecting on the importance of trust in a relationship, recognizing that once it was broken, it was incredibly difficult to rebuild. The kiss, while seemingly a single moment of weakness, had shattered the foundation of their marriage, leaving him feeling vulnerable and exposed. He realized that he could no longer ignore the impact of Tina's actions on his self-respect and emotional well-being. As he contemplated the future, Mark began to understand that self-respect was paramount. He had always prided himself on being a man of integrity, and the thought of staying in a relationship where he felt disrespected and betrayed was unbearable. He recognized that love alone was not enough to sustain a marriage. Mutual respect and trust were equally essential. The realization that Tina's infidelity had compromised those core values weighed heavily on him. He felt as though he was at a crossroads, and the decision to file for divorce began to take shape in his mind. The emotional struggle was profound. Mark grappled with feelings of guilt for even considering divorce. He thought about Ethan and the impact that a divorce would have on their son. He wanted to provide a stable and loving environment for him, but he also understood that staying in a fractured marriage would only create a facade of happiness. Mark knew that children could sense tension and unhappiness, and he didn't want Ethan to grow up in a home filled with resentment and distrust. The thought of breaking up their family was heart-wrenching, but he also recognized that a healthy relationship was essential for their well-being. After much contemplation, Mark made the difficult decision to file for divorce. It was not a choice he took lightly. It was born out of a deep understanding of his own needs and the realization that he deserved a relationship built on trust and respect. He knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but he felt a sense of clarity and empowerment in taking control of his life. The decision to file for divorce was not just about ending a marriage. It was about reclaiming his sense of self and prioritizing his emotional health. To initiate the divorce process, Mark took several steps to ensure that he was prepared for what lay ahead. First, he sought legal advice to understand his rights and the implications of divorce. He wanted to ensure that he was making informed decisions, especially when it came to custody arrangements for Ethan. The thought of navigating the legal system was daunting, but he knew it was necessary to protect his interests and those of his son. Next, Mark began to gather financial documents and information related to their assets and debts. He understood that transparency would be crucial in the divorce proceedings, and he wanted to approach the situation with integrity. He also took the time to reflect on what he wanted from the divorce, including custody arrangements and financial support. This process of self-reflection helped him clarify his priorities and goals moving forward. Mark also sought support from friends and family during this challenging time. He confided in a close friend who had gone through a similar experience, finding comfort in shared stories and advice. The emotional support he received was invaluable, providing him with the strength to navigate the difficult conversations that lay ahead. He knew that he would need a strong support system as he moved through the divorce process, and he was grateful for those who stood by him. As he prepared to file for divorce, Mark felt a mix of sadness and relief. He mourned the loss of the life he had envisioned with Tina, but he also felt a sense of liberation in taking this step. He understood that while the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, it was also an opportunity for growth and healing. The decision to file for divorce was not just an end. It was a new beginning, one that would allow him to reclaim his life and prioritize his happiness. In the end, Mark's decision to file for divorce was a testament to his commitment to self-respect and emotional well-being. He recognized that he deserved a relationship built on trust and mutual respect, and he was ready to take the necessary steps to create a brighter future for himself and Ethan. The road ahead would be difficult, but Mark was determined to face it with courage and resilience, ready to embrace the possibilities that lay beyond the pain of betrayal. In the wake of Mark's decision to file for divorce, Tina found herself in a whirlwind of emotions, grappling with regret, sadness, and a desperate longing to reconnect with the man she loved. The reality of their situation weighed heavily on her heart, and she felt an overwhelming sense of loss as she reflected on the life they had built together. The thought of losing Mark and the family they had created was unbearable, and she was determined to do whatever it took to mend the rift that had formed between them. Tina's emotional state was tumultuous. She oscillated between hope and despair, often finding herself in tears as she recalled the moments of joy they had shared. She felt a deep sense of guilt for her actions, recognizing that her moment of weakness had led to the unraveling of their marriage. In her mind, she replayed the confrontation, the pain in Mark's eyes, and the way he had pulled away from her. It was a haunting reminder of the consequences of her choices, and she was determined to make amends. In the days following the confrontation, Tina made several attempts to reach out to Mark. She started by writing him heartfelt letters, pouring out her feelings and expressing her deep remorse for what had happened. She apologized repeatedly, emphasizing that her actions did not reflect her love for him. "I made a terrible mistake," she wrote in one letter. "I never wanted to hurt you, and I can't express how sorry I am for what I did. You mean everything to me, and I want to make this right." Tina also tried to engage Mark in conversations, hoping to explain her perspective and share her feelings. She wanted him to understand that the kiss had been a moment of poor judgment, not a reflection of her true feelings. "I was caught up in the excitement of the moment," she pleaded during one of their discussions. "It didn't mean anything to me. I love you, and I want to fight for our marriage." However, Mark's response was one of resistance. He listened to Tina's apologies, but he struggled to reconcile her words with the reality of what had transpired. The emotional scars from her betrayal were still fresh, and he found it difficult to let go of the hurt. While he appreciated her efforts to reconnect, he felt a growing need to focus on moving forward rather than dwelling on the past. "Tina, I hear you, but it's not that simple," he replied during one of their conversations. "Trust has been broken, and I don't know if I can ever feel the same way again." Mark's resistance to reconciliation was rooted in a desire to protect himself and their son, Ethan. He understood that staying in a relationship filled with unresolved pain and distrust would not only affect him but also have a profound impact on their child. He wanted to create a stable environment for Ethan, one that was free from the tension and heartache that had become all too familiar. The thought of Ethan witnessing the emotional turmoil between his parents was a driving force behind Mark's decision to prioritize healing and clarity over reconciliation. As Tina continued her efforts to reconnect, she became increasingly aware of the impact their son had on their decisions. She recognized that Ethan was the innocent bystander in their tumultuous relationship, and she wanted to ensure that he felt loved and supported, regardless of the outcome of their marriage. Tina often found herself reflecting on the kind of family environment she wanted for Ethan. She wanted him to grow up in a home filled with love and laughter, not one overshadowed by conflict and resentment. In her heart, Tina believed that if she could just get through to Mark, they could find a way to rebuild their relationship for Ethan's sake. She envisioned a future where they could co-parent effectively, even if that meant living apart. "We can still be a family for Ethan," she told Mark during one of their discussions. "We can work together to make sure he knows he is loved by both of us." Despite her best efforts, Mark remained firm in his resolve. He appreciated Tina's intentions, but he felt that the damage had been done. The emotional distance between them felt insurmountable, and he was not ready to take the leap of faith required to rebuild their relationship. "I want what's best for Ethan too," he replied, his voice steady but filled with sadness. "But I also need to think about what's best for me. I can't pretend that everything is okay when it's not." Tina's heart sank at his words, but she understood that she could not force him to feel differently. She realized that her journey toward reconciliation would take time, and she needed to respect Mark's feelings as he navigated his own emotional landscape. The reality of their situation was painful, But Tina was determined to remain hopeful. She knew that love could be complicated, and while the road ahead was uncertain, she was willing to fight for their family, even if it meant accepting that their relationship might never return to what it once was. As they continued to navigate this difficult chapter in their lives, both Mark and Tina were acutely aware of the impact their decisions would have on Ethan. They were united in their desire to provide him with a loving and supportive environment, even as they grappled with the complexities of their own relationship. The journey ahead would be challenging, but they both hoped that, in time, they could find a way to co-parent effectively and create a stable foundation for their son, regardless of the outcome of their marriage. The family meeting was set for a Sunday afternoon, a time when both Mark and Tina's parents could gather in the living room of their home. The atmosphere was thick with tension, a palpable sense of unease hanging in the air as everyone took their seats. Mark had suggested the meeting as a way to address the growing rift in their family, but he had not anticipated the emotional storm that was about to unfold. The living room, usually a space filled with laughter and warmth, felt cold and foreboding. Tina sat on the couch, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her heart racing as she prepared to confess her infidelity. Mark, seated across from her, felt a mix of dread and determination. He knew that this meeting would be a turning point, not just for their relationship but for their families as well. Their parents, who had always been supportive and loving, were now witnesses to the unraveling of their son and daughter-in-law's marriage. Mark's parents exchanged worried glances, while Tina's mother fidgeted nervously, sensing the gravity of the situation. As the meeting began, Mark took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. "Thank you all for coming," he started, his voice steady but strained. "We wanted to talk about what's been happening in our lives and how it's affecting our family." He glanced at Tina, who nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Tina's heart raced as she prepared to speak. She had rehearsed this moment in her mind countless times, but now that it was here, the words felt heavy on her tongue. "I need to be honest with all of you," she began, her voice trembling. "I made a terrible mistake at the bachelorette party. I kissed someone else." The confession hung in the air like a thunderclap, and the room fell silent. Mark's parents looked shocked, their expressions a mix of disbelief and concern. Tina's mother gasped, covering her mouth with her hand, while her father's brow furrowed in confusion. "What do you mean you kissed someone?" he asked, his voice rising slightly. "How could this happen?" Tina felt the weight of their scrutiny, the disappointment in their eyes cutting deeper than she had anticipated. "It was a moment of weakness," she explained, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I never meant for it to happen, and I regret it every day. I love Mark, and I want to make things right." Mark's heart ached as he watched Tina break down, but he also felt a surge of anger and betrayal. He had hoped that this meeting would provide a path toward healing, but instead, it felt like a public airing of their wounds. He could see the hurt in his parents' eyes, and he knew that this revelation would change everything. As the emotional fallout from Tina's confession began to unfold, Mark felt a sense of clarity wash over him. He had come to this meeting with the intention of discussing their family dynamics, but now he realized that it was time to take decisive action. He reached into his bag and pulled out the divorce papers, his hands shaking slightly as he placed them on the coffee table. "I can't do this anymore," he said, his voice firm but filled with emotion. "I'm filing for divorce." The room erupted in chaos. Tina's mother gasped again, her eyes wide with shock, while Mark's father looked at him in disbelief. "Mark, are you sure about this?" his father asked, concern etched on his face. "You've been through so much. Is there no way to work this out?" Mark shook his head, feeling a mix of sadness and resolve. "I've thought long and hard about this. Trust has been broken, and I don't believe we can rebuild it. I need to prioritize my own well-being and that of our son." Tina's reaction was immediate and visceral. She felt as though the ground had been pulled out from beneath her. "Mark, please," she pleaded, her voice choked with emotion. "I'm so sorry. I'll do anything to fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work through it together." But Mark's heart was heavy with the weight of his decision. He could see the pain in Tina's eyes, but he also felt a sense of liberation in finally taking control of his life. "I appreciate your willingness to try, but I can't go back to a place where I feel betrayed. I need to move forward. The emotional fallout from this confrontation was profound. Tina's parents looked devastated, struggling to process the reality of the situation. They had always envisioned a future filled with family gatherings and celebrations, and now that dream felt shattered. Mark's parents, while supportive, were equally heartbroken, witnessing the pain their son was enduring. As the meeting drew to a close, the atmosphere was heavy with grief and uncertainty. Tina sat in silence, tears streaming down her face, while Mark felt a mix of relief and sorrow. He knew that this was just the beginning of a long and painful journey, but he also understood that he had taken a crucial step toward reclaiming his life. In the aftermath of the meeting, both families were left to grapple with the fallout of Tina's confession and Mark's decision. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but as they each processed their emotions, they knew that the love they had once shared would forever be altered by the events of that day. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The impact of this confrontation would resonate through their lives for years to come. In the months following the divorce, Mark found himself navigating a landscape that felt both foreign and daunting. The initial relief he had experienced after making the decision to end his marriage was quickly overshadowed by feelings of emptiness and frustration. The life he had envisioned, a life filled with love, laughter, and shared dreams, had crumbled, leaving him to grapple with the stark reality of single parenthood and the emotional fallout of his relationship with Tina. Mark often felt a profound sense of loss, as if a part of him had been severed. The days stretched on, and he found himself going through the motions of life without truly engaging in it. He missed the companionship he had once shared with Tina, the small moments of intimacy that had defined their relationship. Even though he knew that their marriage had been fraught with challenges, the absence of her presence left a void that was difficult to fill. He often sat in silence, reflecting on the memories they had created together, and the weight of nostalgia would wash over him, leaving him feeling even more isolated. The logistical challenges of co-parenting added another layer of complexity to Mark's post-divorce life. He had moved into a modest apartment, a stark contrast to the family home he had shared with Tina. The process of finding a new place had been overwhelming, filled with endless paperwork and the stress of ensuring that it was suitable for Ethan. Mark wanted to create a stable environment for his son, one that felt safe and nurturing, but the reality of his new life was far from ideal. He often found himself juggling work commitments, parenting responsibilities, and the emotional toll of the divorce, leaving little room for self-care or personal fulfillment. Co-parenting with Tina proved to be another significant challenge. While they had agreed to share custody of Ethan, the logistics of coordinating schedules and managing transitions were often fraught with tension. Mark found himself constantly navigating the delicate balance of being a supportive father while also setting boundaries with Tina. There were moments when he felt overwhelmed by the demands of parenting alone, and he longed for the days when they had worked as a team. The reality of their situation was that they were now two separate entities, each trying to navigate their own lives while still being responsible for their son. Tina's attempts to reach out only complicated matters further. She would send texts, sometimes filled with apologies and expressions of longing for reconciliation, while other times they were more casual, asking about Ethan's activities or suggesting playdates. Mark found himself torn between wanting to maintain a cordial relationship for the sake of their son and feeling the weight of unresolved emotions. He had set clear boundaries after the divorce, determined to protect his heart and avoid falling back into old patterns. "Mark, can we talk?" Tina would text, her words often laced with a sense of urgency. "I just want to see how you're doing." Mark would read her messages with a mix of frustration and sadness. He understood that Tina was struggling too, but he felt that any conversation beyond co-parenting would only reopen wounds that were still healing. He often replied with short, polite messages, keeping the focus on Ethan and avoiding any discussions about their past. "I'm fine. Ethan is doing well. Let's keep our conversations about him." This approach, while necessary for his emotional well-being, left him feeling guilty at times. He didn't want to come across as cold or unfeeling, but he also knew that he needed to prioritize his own healing. The boundaries he had established were essential for him to move forward, yet they often felt like a barrier between him and the person he had once loved deeply. As the weeks turned into months, Mark began to realize that healing would take time. He sought support from friends and family, leaning on them for encouragement and understanding. He started to engage in activities that brought him joy, such as hiking and spending time with Ethan at the park. Slowly, he began to rediscover parts of himself that had been overshadowed by the turmoil of his marriage. Yet, the feelings of emptiness lingered. There were nights when he would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, grappling with the reality of his new life. He missed the intimacy of a partner, the shared dreams and plans that had once filled their home with hope. The frustration of navigating single parenthood and the complexities of co-parenting weighed heavily on him, and he often felt like he was walking a tightrope, trying to balance his own needs with those of his son. Mark knew that he was on a journey of self-discovery, one that would require patience and resilience. He was learning to embrace the uncertainty of his new life, understanding that it was okay to feel lost at times. The challenges he faced were daunting, but he was determined to create a fulfilling life for himself and Ethan. In the end, Mark's post-divorce life was a testament to his strength and commitment to moving forward. He was learning to navigate the complexities of co-parenting while also prioritizing his own emotional health. The road ahead would be filled with challenges, but he was ready to face them head-on, embracing the possibilities that lay beyond the pain of his past. In this video, we've taken a deep dive into the poignant journey of Mark, a man who navigated the tumultuous waters of love, betrayal, and ultimately, the decision to prioritize his self-respect. Mark's story began with a beautiful romance with Tina, filled with dreams of a shared future and the joys of family life. However, as the pressures of adulthood mounted, cracks began to form in their relationship, leading to a heartbreaking moment of infidelity that shattered the trust they had built over the years. Mark's experience serves as a powerful reminder of the complexities of love and the fragility of trust. After discovering Tina's betrayal, he faced an emotional storm that forced him to confront not only the reality of their marriage, but also his own needs and desires. The decision to file for divorce was not made lightly. It was a culmination of deep reflection and a recognition that he deserved a relationship built on mutual respect and honesty. Mark's journey illustrates the importance of prioritizing one's own emotional well-being, especially in the face of betrayal. Throughout this narrative, we've emphasized the critical role that communication plays in relationships. Mark's attempts to engage Tina in open dialogue about their issues highlighted the necessity of transparency and honesty in maintaining a healthy partnership. When trust is broken, as it was in Mark and Tina's case, it can be incredibly challenging to rebuild that foundation. Their story underscores the idea that relationships thrive on open communication, and without it, misunderstandings and resentment can fester, leading to devastating consequences. As Mark moved through the aftermath of the divorce, he learned valuable lessons about co-parenting and setting boundaries. His experiences remind us that while love can be complicated, the commitment to fostering a healthy environment for children is paramount. Mark's journey is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the capacity to heal and grow, even after profound heartbreak. Now, we want to hear from you. Have you experienced a similar journey of love, betrayal, or the struggle to prioritize self-respect? Your stories matter, and sharing them can foster a sense of community and understanding among those who may be facing similar challenges. We encourage you to engage with us by leaving your thoughts in the comments section below. If you found Mark's story relatable or inspiring, please consider subscribing to our channel for more content that delves into the complexities of relationships and personal growth. Don't forget to like this video and share it with friends or family who might benefit from hearing Mark's journey. Together, we can create a supportive space where we can learn from one another and navigate the intricacies of love and trust. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Remember, you are not alone in your struggles, and there is always hope for healing and growth. We look forward to hearing your thoughts and experiences, and we hope to see you in our next video.